Welcome to the EH Construction job site. We are committed to making sure that you return home safely to your family at the end of each work shift. As part of that commitment, EH Construction's top priority is to make sure every work site is as safe and as healthy as possible. We want to make sure that you and the individuals around you are safe at all times. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to our safety procedures and rules. So, please pay close attention over the next few moments because a safe job site requires everyone's cooperation. Thank you.
EH Construction is a second-generation, family-owned and operated general contractor. Established in 1995, EH Construction has built a solid reputation as a full-service construction firm specializing in general contracting, construction management, engineering, new construction, and complex renovations. We are focused on assigning and retaining the most experienced and skilled personnel and maintaining stringent subcontractor oversight while prioritizing safety. We plan to continue our work and ensure that everyone goes home safely. The goal and objectives of the EH Construction Contractor Program is to inform contractors and subcontractors of their responsibilities when working on EH job sites, protect workers, visitors, property, and the public from potential hazards, and comply with all federal and local safety and environmental regulations. Expectations. General site requirements. Contractors are responsible for training their employees on basic safety policies and site requirements. To meet compliance obligations, proof of training must be made available upon request. EH requires that all job sites be smoke-free. Smoking is only permitted in designated areas away from buildings and potential fire hazards. EH requires that all drugs and alcohol be strictly prohibited on all job sites. Contractors are required to have plans and drawings in place prior to work beginning. This also includes any need for fall protection plans, trenching plans, etc. All safety regulations must be followed at all times. Inform EH management of any unique hazards you may encounter or create. Incident reporting. Contractors must report all accidents to EH Project Management immediately. Contractors are responsible for investigating and correcting all incidents involving their employees and/or subcontractors. Representatives from EH will also participate in the investigation process. A completed investigation report must be forwarded to EH Management, and the report must include the root cause or causes and a corrective action plan. Equipment and inspections. Contractors are responsible for conducting inspections of all equipment and work areas. Any issues must be addressed and reported to the project manager. Hazard communication. All contractors are required to comply with the Hazard Communication Standard. All contractors must have safety data sheets immediately available for any hazardous substance brought onto EH's property. Contractors are responsible for maintaining the accuracy of their chemical inventory. All hazardous materials must be properly identified, and a list of chemicals must be given to a member of EH Construction Project Management. All hazardous materials must be identified by the manufacturer with an affixed label. Labels must identify contents with a name and meet all GHS HAZCOM requirements. Housekeeping. Maintain good housekeeping practices at all times and thoroughly clean your area prior to leaving each day. This includes the immediate work area, along with any laydown areas. All areas must be free from loose scrap, debris, nails, screws, etc. Ensure that all flammable materials are stored properly in accordance with local, state, and federal guidelines. Fire extinguishers shall be placed every 100 feet in accordance with federal guidelines. Spills. All spills, oil, chemical, etc., need to be reported immediately to project management. Spills need to be cleaned as soon as possible. Equipment usage. Contractors are required to supply all equipment they need to perform work. Contractors shall not use any EH-owned equipment, including but not limited to powered industrial trucks, lifts, air monitors, confined space fans, saws, grinders, ladders, harnesses, etc. Emergency procedures. EH Construction's Emergency Response Plan is designed to protect the safety and well-being of all EH employees, contractors, and visitors. The following procedures should be followed in case of an emergency at an EH construction job site. Fires. In the event of a fire emergency, all contractors shall evacuate the building and job site immediately to the designated assembly area. If you are in an existing building and the fire alarm doesn't sound, an air horn will sound in the event of a fire emergency. This indicates an external evacuation. In case of an external evacuation, evacuate through the nearest exit and report to the designated assembly area. Medical emergencies. In the event of a medical emergency, contact 911 and EH Project Management immediately. When in doubt, call 911. First aid. First aid kits are located throughout the job site. All EH employees are trained in first aid and CPR AED. Contractors should also be responsible for maintaining trained employees in accordance with state and federal regulations, along with maintaining proper medical equipment and first aid materials. Bloodborne pathogens. All potential bloodborne pathogen exposures shall be reported to EH Project Management immediately. All biohazard waste must go into a properly marked container with a fixed biohazard symbol. EH and affected subcontractors shall work together in the event of a spill cleanup scenario. This will help minimize the potential of any bloodborne pathogen exposure. Severe weather. During severe weather, the site foreman and project manager will monitor the weather radio and will notify the employees by radio, phone, or direct verbal communication. Confined space. A confined space permit must be obtained from EH Construction Project Management before entry of any confined space. Entry into any such spaces must be planned in advance to ensure that the proper measures are taken to ensure a safe work condition. All contractors must wear the correct PPE required for the specific job within the confined space. Respiratory protection must be used when required. Air monitoring must be made before initial entry. Contractors are responsible for continuous air monitoring as needed. All contractors must follow site procedures for testing, isolation, or entering a confined space. Contractors are responsible for providing all equipment that will be used in the confined space entry process, including, but not limited to, air monitoring equipment, harnesses, retrieval systems, and their own confined space rescue team. Consult with EH project managers before working inside of a confined space. Trenching, excavations. EH takes trenching and excavation work very seriously, and the scope of work must be carefully planned before work begins. Call 811 and identify where all underground utilities are before work begins. Keep heavy equipment away from the face of the trench at all times, including spoil piles, which shall be a minimum of 2 feet away from the face of the trench. All trenches deeper than 5 feet in depth shall have a protective system in place, such as benching, sloping, trench boxes, etc. Trenches, regardless of depth, shall be inspected by a competent person daily before each shift. This inspection shall include, but not be limited to, the following: soil type classification, atmospheric hazards, protective systems, rescue plans, water accumulation, etc. All companies involved in trenching work must have a designated competent person on site. All excavations beyond 25 feet in depth must be of a professionally engineered design. An egress point shall be installed every 25 feet for every trench 4 foot or deeper. These can include ladders, stairs, or ramps. Hot work. All personnel performing cutting, welding, or other hot work in an interior structure must obtain a permit prior to performing work. To request a permit, contact your EH site contact before beginning work. Workers must be at the work site with all fire protection devices in place before receiving a permit. Save time by having your work site ready. Make sure all combustibles and flammables are removed or shielded and the area is clean within 35 feet of the job. A proper fire extinguisher must be at the work site. The hot work permit is valid until the expiration time and date marked on the permit. A fire watch is required at all times, even during breaks. Contractors are required to provide their own fire watches. Fire watch must stay at the job a minimum of 30 minutes after hot work activity is completed, per EH construction policy. Only trained and authorized users may perform gas cutting or welding functions. Defective equipment must be replaced or repaired immediately. All bottles must be secured using a chain or cable, not rope. When not in use, cylinders will be stored in approved locations and separated by material classification. All flammable gas devices must have backflow valves, check valves, and flashback arresters. Fall protection. EH Construction takes fall hazards very seriously and expects its employees to utilize fall protection where required at all times. Fall protection is mandatory when working at heights above 6 feet. There are many methods of fall protection and prevention. These include, but are not limited to, hazard elimination, conducting work from the ground, guardrail systems, personal fall arrest systems, warning line safety monitor systems, hole covers, barricades, or controlled access zones. Please review any work over 6 feet with an EH superintendent prior to starting work. Guardrails. All guardrails must have a top edge height of between 39 and 45 inches and must be able to withstand 200 pounds of downward and outward force without failure. A mid-rail shall be placed at a height of 19 inches and must be able to withstand 150 pounds without failure. Toe boards must also be erected at a height of 3 inches and must be able to withstand 50 pounds of force. Guardrails must also have uprights at no greater intervals than 8 feet, regardless of constructed materials. Rails must never be removed without the implementation of another fall protection system in its place. Personal fall protection. Personal fall arrest systems are required when other options are not viable. These systems must include an anchor point, full body harness, and deceleration system. Anchor points must be able to withstand a minimum of 5,000 pounds per person attached and limit free fall to 6 feet. All personal fall protection equipment must be visually inspected by the user before each use and routinely by a competent person. Each subcontractor is required to have a documented fall protection plan on site. Personal fall arrest systems are required while working from aerial work systems, including both boom lifts and scissors, per EH requirement. EH recommends the usage of personal fall limiters or restraints while working from scissor lifts as a company best practice. Controlled access zones, warning line systems, hole covers, barricades. Warning line systems must only be used when other options for fall protection are not viable. These systems are designed for low-slope roofing operations. Warning lines must be erected 6 feet back from the edge for roofing work and 15 feet back for non-roofing work. A designated safety monitor who is a competent person must be utilized at all times while using. The warning line must be within 34 to 39 inches and flagged every 6 feet with high visibility material. Hole covers and barricades are used to protect workers and materials from falling to a lower level. Hole covers must be used when the opening exceeds 2 inches. These covers must be secured, able to withstand the maximum intended load, ×2, and marked with the word hole. Ladders. Only Type 1 or higher rated fiberglass ladders shall be used on all EH job sites. Metal ladders are not permitted. Ladders must be visually inspected before each use to check for any defects. Secure all extension ladders to prevent any potential side shifting at both the top and base. Extension ladders shall also be set up at the proper angle of 4:1 and must extend 3 feet above the landing surface. On step ladders, workers need to ensure that ladders are placed on a stable, level surface. Locking arms must be fully extended and locked in place. Workers must also ensure not to use the top 2 steps of any stepladder to prevent possible tipping. If a worker is not able to maintain safe contact with the ladder, then personal fall arrest systems may be required. Also, use ladders in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications. Scaffolding. All scaffolds must be erected and inspected per OSHA regulations by a competent person. Scaffolding must be erected, moved, dismantled, or altered under the supervision of a competent person. Scaffolding shall be inspected by a competent person daily and tagged and recorded accordingly. Scaffolding must also be able to withstand 4 times the maximum intended load. Guardrails are required when working above 6 feet. This includes the implementation of a toe board for falling object protection, which could also include screens or mesh. Rails must never be removed without the implementation of another fall protection system in its place. Electrical. OSHA requires that the workplace shall be kept free and clear from all electrical hazards on site. believes that the elimination of electrical hazards is a priority when protecting workers on the job. Many workplace injuries and fatalities are caused by coming into contact with energized conductors or electrical components. Electrical equipment. All electrical equipment on site must be in good, serviceable condition. This includes tools that are either grounded or double insulated. All extension cords must be visually inspected before each use, properly grounded, and rated for hard or extra hard usage. Place or hang cords in a fashion where they will not be driven or tripped over. Temporary supply power for tools or equipment must also be protected with the use of a GFCI system. All damaged equipment shall be tagged and removed from service immediately. Repairs shall only be made by a qualified person. Power lines. All workers and all equipment used on site must maintain a minimum distance of 10 feet away from overhead power lines. If this distance cannot be achieved, then implementation of guards, warning lines, etc. shall be used. Lockout, tagout. All contractors must follow site procedures for locking out, tagging out, or otherwise isolating energy sources. Lockout, tagout will be followed at all times when working on machinery or any other stored energy work. Consult with an construction project leader for job site-specific lockout procedures. Lockout, tagout must occur before work is conducted on energized equipment. Lockout shall only be performed by authorized individuals. All lockout, tagout procedures shall meet OSHA requirements. Always refer to your company's energy control program where applicable. All workers need to verify that equipment is at zero energy state before proceeding. All lockout, tagout equipment must be provided by the subcontractor and must meet OSHA standards. This includes both locks and tags. Personal protective equipment. To minimize injury, all employees and subcontractors are required to wear head protection. Head protection must be worn at all times regardless of the phase of construction. Type 1 Class E hard hats are to be worn at all times throughout all phases of construction. Hard hats need to be replaced as needed, either through damage or age. Hard hats are to be replaced every 5 years. Eye and face protection. ANSI Z87 safety glasses with side shields are required at all times, regardless of the job task. Face shields must be worn in addition to safety glasses for such tasks as grinding, cutting metal, chipping, and working with chemicals. Foot and body protection. Work boots are required at all times when on site. The type of boot you wear will be dependent on the job or task. These types could include chemical protection, steel toes, or metatarsal guarding boots if jackhammering. Full-length pants and high-visibility shirts are required at all times when on site. Shirts are required to have 4-inch sleeves. Cutoffs, tank tops, or shorts are not permitted. All shirts worn on job sites shall include a company logo. Safety vest, high visibility clothes. Contractors are required to wear a high visibility safety vest or high visibility clothing the entire time while in the facility. Hearing protection. Hearing protection is required in high noise areas or for job tasks that have a high decibel reading of 85 or above. If you cannot be heard without raising your voice from 3 feet away, then you need hearing protection. Hand protection. Gloves are required for most activities while on site. Gloves can protect workers from cuts, scrapes, and chemical or thermal burns. Do not wear jewelry while operating tools or machinery. Hand and power tools. requires that all hand and power tools be inspected before each use. If equipment is found to be in poor condition, then it shall be tagged and removed from service. All guards shall remain in place at all times. Removal of these guards is a willful violation. Always use the correct tool for the job. Always wear appropriate PPE for the job task at hand. Consider the hazards associated with the tools being used, how it is being powered, the materials being altered, and the fumes or dust being given off. Mechanized equipment on site may include, but is not limited to, skid steers, forklifts, scissor or boom lifts, cranes, etc. Ensure that all equipment on site has a trained operator and is properly inspected in accordance with both the manufacturer's requirements as well as all local, state, and federal agencies. Ensure that all mechanized equipment on site stays a minimum of 10 feet away from energized power lines. Ensure that the operator can see you at all times. Do not walk underneath booms, forks, etc. Ensure that the swing radiuses of cranes are properly marked off. Ensure that all rigging equipment is inspected and maintained and in proper working condition before use. All defective equipment must be tagged and removed from service. Special client requirements. Jefferson County Public Schools. Construction works very closely with JCPS on many of its projects. JCPS and have set forward several requirements. All JCPS sites are considered tobacco-free at all times. All employees and subcontractors are required to submit themselves to JCPS background check requirements before entering any JCPS site. These background checks also include a clear drug test within 6 months of the check. If the check comes back clear, a JCPS clearance badge must be worn at all times through all phases of construction. These checks help ensure the safety of all JCPS employees and students. Security. Kentucky state law prohibits any doors to public schools being propped open during the school day. This includes boiler rooms, electrical rooms, kitchens, etc. Schools will fail their state safety inspections and lose their funding if doors are found open. If your company or subcontractor has received permission to work in a school during the school day, you must put protocols in place to enter and exit without propping a door. If you cannot follow this rule, you cannot work during the school day. You will not get a warning or second chance on this offense. Special client requirements. Kroger stores. Also conducts much of its work through Kroger. Kroger stores have set forth several requirements that include wearing company logo apparel at all times while working on any Kroger-owned site. This helps Kroger management identify workers on site. Employees and contractors are required to protect individuals of the general public from any potential hazards to include, but not limited to, falling objects, fall hazards, airborne contaminants, etc. Kroger takes the protection of its customers and employees very seriously. Construction is committed to being a quality organization. Our performance is reflected in working together to keep our workplace safe, make a safe and quality end product, meet legal and customer requirements, continually improve what we do, and ensure we exceed expectations. Summary. All contractors and subcontractors must sign in at the designated location. All contractors and subcontractors are required to wear certain PPE. Follow all emergency procedures in the event of an emergency. Know where the nearest escape routes are for your work area prior to starting any work. Protect workers from any potential hazards on site. Be sure to fill out all proper paperwork and prepare work area before work begins. Pay attention to your surroundings, above, below, behind, and in front of what you're working on. If you have any other questions or have specific safety concerns, please contact Construction Management immediately. Safety is our priority.